Hello fam, here is another update video from the big trip. I just arrived at a community in Oregon called Lost Valley 4 days ago. Before that, I was in Bali for 3 weeks. Before that, I was in a community called Dancing Rabbit in rural Missouri for about a month. This video will just be about Dancing Rabbit. I was there from June 12th to July 13th. The community is 30 years old. It's on 300 acres, although only like 40 of those are developed. There's about 75 people there, mainly residents, although there's like 15 work exchangers, including me. There's a few visitors. All the houses are pretty close together on the property, and I liked that when they gave me the tour, they said that when you're building them, you want them close enough together where the courtyard in between them is small enough that you can easily have a conversation with someone across the other side. They said that if it's too big where you are having to like yell to the person across, that it's too big, and that actually having it smaller like that brings people together and contributes to way more connection. So I love that. But very rural area. There was only like a couple shops around the like neighboring cities. And again, like just what I've learned in being in other communities is that I really like to have like some sort of city that's close by that I can like venture out to. And I think that this was a little bit too out there and rural for me. I like to be able to just like leave the community and go venture out and go to dances and other events and then like come back and not just be like stuck at that community. They did have a grocery store at the community that was really cool, so they didn't have to always leave to get things. Super beautiful, the nature there. They had like the most beautiful bird songs that I've ever heard, just like all day long, especially in the mornings. And really cool, like funky, unique, natural building structures. Like all the houses were very different, built in these cool natural ways with recycled materials, lots of cob and straw bale. Really, they were really into natural building and would even have like retreats and classes and things. Like when I was there, they had a whole weekend where people came and they taught them how to build cob houses. I was staying in a cob house for the first couple weeks, and I liked it. Although I don't know if I think that you get mold more easily in them. Perhaps I could be wrong, but there was definitely mold in there, and I was getting like crazy bad allergies and could just like barely breathe. And that's not true. I could breathe. I just had really bad allergies. And I think it was mixed with like seasonal allergies there, because even when I moved to another room somewhere else, it was just like I just had really bad allergies like the whole time. So I don't know if it was a Missouri thing or just like the time of year there. A lot of poison ivy as well. So I had to just like shower crazy every day. Lots of solar. They were able to produce so much energy that they get to like sell it back to the like neighboring cities. Missouri has no building regulations as well, so they could do like whatever they want. So everyone has like their own little tiny home or even some like actual bigger homes. And then in the middle, they have like kind of what's like their downtown with a store and a common house, which is like the living room area for like everyone in the community, that has like a office and a library and a kitchen and a living room area and a place for the kids to play, like a playroom. So that was a cool like central kind of hub every area where people would come, and they'd have like potlucks and get-togethers and classes and meetings and things there. And then right next to that was like their venue where they would have like yoga and dances and more classes and ceremony and things like that. And then they had a really nice park right next to there. They had a beautiful pond. They had a sauna. They have a really big field for like soccer and ultimate frisbee, which they played twice a week, and like 15 people would come. That was really fun. they're really into consensus. I got to see them use it a couple times, sort of informally. And I guess they provide 2 trainings per year for the residents there, and I think it's a requirement. But it was really cool to see people using consensus. I don't know if I've seen people use it that much and that well. And I love that they have everyone in the community, you have to sign up for a certain amount of tasks and be in a certain amount of committees, which I feel like just kind of contributed to people contributing in their community more. And they're just very organized. They have multiple legal entities. Everyone was on time. They use like Google calendars for everything. You can just go to their calendar and see like everything that's happening in the community always. They had a vehicle co-op with 4 cars, a truck, multiple tractors, where you could just sign up to borrow a car or use one. I don't know if it went by like mileage or time or both. But I haven't seen that in other communities as far as like the shared usage of vehicles. So that was really cool. They're just like super eco-friendly. One of the main things that was really inspiring, what I haven't seen in other communities, was just like how intrinsically motivated I judged these people to be, and that they worked so hard every day, like all day, to build this community, whether it was like working on the farm together or like mowing the lawns or making it look pretty or building new structures. Like one of their main kitchen areas, there was like a kitchen hangout area, burnt down I think a couple years ago, and every day they would work on this building and they're just making it so big and pretty, and I got to help them with that. But then even when they would like sit down and have meals, they're talking about like, hey, what are we going to use? Like, what tool are we going to use for this? And what kind of, how lit up they were from being able to build this community every day to be a bigger and better place for themselves and others. There were like 4 or 5 kitchen co-ops throughout the community where like they had their own little villages that would eat together. And then every Tuesday, everyone would come together to the common house for a big community potluck. And there were 2 neighboring communities, Sand Hill and Red Earth. Some of them would come to the potlucks and to other events and to the Ultimate Frisbee. And then they would invite us to events at their communities as well. So it was cool to have, there was like 3 communities together, even though their communities were smaller. So I was a work exchanger doing about 25 hours per week, which could be cooking, construction, working in the garden, on the farm. And I've talked about this in previous videos, but I just keep learning that I don't really see myself doing this like hard manual work with my body. I think that in community I'm gonna live in, I'm gonna want to contribute in another way, whether that's event organizing, retreat organizing, public relations, maybe guiding ceremony, whether it's breath work or other things. And yeah, maybe just like contributing by being able to work with my mind and not so much with my body. Everything was crazy cheap in Missouri. I've never seen anywhere that cheap in the US. Probably like half the prices of California as far as like food, gas, accommodation, things. The population of people at the community, there was kind of older people. I'd say like the median is probably like 50 years old. Some families, some young people as well. A good mixture. And I judge the people to be, like very happy, simple life, very silly, fun. A lot of queer community and a lot of trans people. Lots of like queer activists. Like they had a pride parade one day. I don't think I heard anyone ever say you guys. It was y'all. And people were really big into expressing gender pronouns, which is great. Some things I had a hard time with were like substance use. Like I could see that people were altered sometimes, and I could see people drinking alcohol. There was beer or wine or sometimes like mixed drinks and things, especially like in the evenings. I could see that people were altered from smoking weed, and I could smell it sometimes, and sometimes people were smoking tobacco in like common areas. Um, Again, I don't know if it's just my projection, but in the past I used substances in a recreational way and for like emotional suppression. And I feel like, a lot of these communities I go to aren't necessarily spiritual communities, but I feel like a lot of us are like on spiritual paths in these communities, and I don't know. I feel like that's just not really what I want to be around. And I asked some of the leaders in the community, like, hey, is that allowed? Like to like clearly see that someone's altered? And they're like, yeah, as long as they're not like really being disruptive or causing harm, then it's allowed. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that might be a boundary as far as me like not coming back here. And another thing was the food there. I don't know if it was Missouri or the community, probably more so the Midwest or Missouri. Is just like unhealthy, a lot of preservatives, processed food, inorganic. Um, and I just felt like it was like moving through me slower, and I just felt like more bloated, especially like coming from Pachamama right before that, where the food was like super clean, and I just felt like light and clean. So it was like a big contrast. I found that there were, yeah, like a good amount of difficult people for me to be around there, and and the people that just didn't want to practice conflict resolution. And I had people come to me like, and pretty surprisingly, just say some violent things. Like someone told me that they're gonna like beat my ass. Someone told me that they wanted me to leave the community, and that they were like wanting to help me pack my bags and help me like get off the property, like literally out of nowhere. I had no idea like what I had done, and I was just like in a peaceful way of like, hey, do you want to have a check-in and like talk about this? And they were just like, no, and just like walked away. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, this is against my boundary for you to be talking to me like this, and what seems to me to be like a violent way, and then to not to be open to talking about it. So with one person, it kept happening, and then eventually I went to one of the leaders, and they were like, yeah, that's kind of just them. They were kind of an old female resident, and they're like, that's them, I'll talk to them. Once they had talked to them, I didn't hear from them. And we kind of just went our own ways for the remaining time. But yeah, that was just, yeah, not very, that was challenging. Some of the things that I missed in this community, that I've missed in a lot of communities, that I feel like I want to have in the community that I live in, is just like lots of inner work and like sharing circles and inner growth, processing together, and dance and touch and intimacy. I know that like I was only in this community for a month. It's going to take a longer time to kind of like find those things in community and to build trust in relationships and to like have the intimacy and the touch and everything. But there were some other communities where I got that pretty quick. But I've just seen that those are things that I really want, and especially dance. Like all these communities I go to, I'm pretty dance deprived, and to be able to have like maybe just a neighboring city that has like lots of dance that I can go to. And yeah, I wouldn't say that they were like like sexuality was suppressed at this community, although we had a sharing circle check-in once a week with the work exchangers, and there was a family in there, and they had 3 young kids. And I mean, I'm coming from I keep saying I'm coming from Tamara. I feel like I learned so many things at Tamara as far as like sexuality and owning desires, and I refer to that a lot. But I feel like very open about talking about my sexuality, and coming to the sharing circles there, I was just like, hey, like sexuality, intimacy, touch are like huge parts of my life that give me lots of like joy and like juiciness, and I feel like I'm like missing them. And then after, someone was like, I love how you just came to the sharing circle and said how horny you were. And I was like, wait a minute, I did not say that, but I kind of love that you like interpreted that's what I said. And then I had a leader from the community come to me after and be like, hey, we're going to need you to stop talking about like your sexuality in like sharing circles and like in front of the kids. which makes sense. And I just see that, like, other communities like Tamara, where sexuality is just like very open and it's sex positive, that would not have happened. And I feel like I talked about it in like a very appropriate, gentle way. But like that was the only sharing circle we had. So then it's like, okay, I guess I can just talk to people individually about how I'm feeling. But I don't know. I like to bring like everything and what's really present with me to sharing circles and things like that. Things that I loved were the venues and the spaces to like have events were very easy to use. Like at Pachamama, could not use them. Here, I could use them like pretty much any time as long as they were open. I just go to the Google Calendar. I can just put an event there like breathwork at a certain time and then send an email out to everyone that it's happening, and then boom, it happens. So that was great and easy. I got to offer dance, contact, breathwork, meditation. Yeah. Some other sort of like going into like my personal process now, I found that in other communities, it was kind of hard for me to balance alone time versus time with others, and that it's scary to be alone because I feel lonely, and that I lean more into hanging out with people. And it's just like fun, and I get like sucked into like the fun events and things with people, and I don't have enough alone time, and I'm trying to find that balance. And at this community, for some reason, I just really found it felt really great to have a lot of alone time and just like go to the pond and play guitar alone. So yeah, I guess I'm moving towards that balance better. And then again, the same thing as being at Pachamama as far as finding like my intention to find equanimity, and that here is a stimuli in my environment that is unpleasant, and do I just sit back and observe it and accept it for how it is, or do I express my desire for it to be different? You know, if someone's playing music too loud, do I just accept it, or do I ask them to turn it down? And I've kind of had these concepts in my awareness already, but my friend Nathan at the community talked about ask versus guess culture, and that like Russians are very ask culture. They ask for what they want, they're very direct. And Japanese are very guest culture. They are sort of subtle and casual, and will like indirectly hint at things that they want. And I feel like I'm more moving towards ask culture, and I feel like that's more of like the dance community and the conscious community, and like especially how people were at Tamara. Like, if you have a desire, you ask for it, and hopefully in a way that's gentle, where the person feels like they can easily say no. I think that because society is like so guest culture, that sometimes when it feels like when I ask for something, it's like, oh, well, this must be really built up in Austin, and then he's finally asking for it, so he must really want it, so I have to say yes to him. And it's like, no, I'm just like I'm getting more and more comfortable expressing my desires, and I want you to feel like very comfortable saying no to me. And granted that, yeah, that was another insight too, that, you know, a lot of the community was queer in Dancing Rabbit, and someone brought it to light. They're like, hey, you are one of the most privileged people on earth, being white, male, straight, middle class, etc. And maybe it's very easy for you to express your desires. A lot of these other people who come with trauma, who possibly have been oppressed in the past, it was not okay for them to say no. When someone asked them for something, they had to say yes. So when you come, Austin, and you ask them for something, they feel like they have to say yes. They can't say no to you. And so that's like something that I have to be aware of, because I did have someone in the community say, I felt like they were upset with me, and I asked them like, hey, you mind if we have a check-in? They said, yeah. I said, I have a story that you're upset with me. Is that true? They said, yes. I said, okay, great. Can we talk about it? They said, yeah, I feel like you're really controlling. And I said, thank you. I am just working on owning my desires and my preferences, and I like to voice them. And I want you to feel like very comfortable in saying no to me. And I think that they just didn't feel comfortable saying no. And so then they felt like they couldn't say no to me, so they felt controlled by me. Yeah, I had people ask me to express my desires less and to just like be more tolerant of my environment. Which I think, yeah, there's this balance that I need to find. Like if I was living in community with someone and they were constantly saying how they wanted things to be different and how they wanted me to act different, for sure I would be annoyed. And at the same time, like, so yeah, I think that there is this element of like, yes, I need to accept how a lot of things are in my environment and find that equanimity. And I also don't want to suppress my preferences too much. Like I lived with someone in the past who was really messy, and I felt scared to ask them to be cleaner around the house because I felt like they were going to get defensive and that they were going to get mad at me for asking them to be different. And so I suppressed my preferences. I suppressed owning and voicing my preferences to them for the house to be cleaner. And then so I would build up resentment and get upset with them, and then become like more and more distant from them and actually start like avoiding them. So then I feel like, like I need to be able to express my desire for the house to be cleaner. And yeah, they can totally say no. And then I get to decide, okay, I need to accept this, or I need to maybe move out or make some changes or clean it up myself or whatever. Yeah, another example is I would meditate in the park every morning, and there was this older male that would kind of walk his dog through the park, and he lived like right next to it, and he had been there for years, like since the beginning of the community, and he would play on his phone in his pocket on his shirt, like CNN news about like the presidential debates or something, and it was super loud, and I was meditating, and I was just like, okay, here's an unpleasant sensation. Do I just accept it, or do I ask him to turn it off? He's been here since the beginning of the community. Here I come in as this new visitor, and I'm going to ask him to change. And like, I was like, what do I do? And do I just go meditate somewhere else? And yeah, I ended up not asking him and just accepting it. But I think, yeah, another sort of solution that I've been working with is like finding the silence and the stillness that's underneath all stimuli all the time. And especially that was easy during meditation. But, I feel like this is what Adyashanti talks about, of like, here I am, unpleasant sensation, and I can just, find the silence and the stillness under everything. And then another thing that came to me from the past that helped me was I did a mindful communication day-long like years ago, and he talked about like when you have a conflict resolution conversation with someone, saying like acknowledging that they have needs and I have needs, and those needs are clashing and overlapping, and how can we work this out in a way where both of us are getting our needs met. So I took that approach a couple times, and that was really helpful. Another, I don't know if I shared this was an insight I had from the community in Hawaii that I stayed at, that, here I am in relation with all these people in community, and I can be very gentle with all of them, and still as gentle as I am, people are still going to get triggered. I'm still going to get triggered. And there was this great metaphor that I discovered in this Hawaiian community where I was breaking these crates with this big crowbar to get the wood so that we could build with it. And I found that I would want to break them fast so that I could go through a bunch of crates so I could get the work done faster and get more wood. And when I would do it fast, the wood would shatter into a bunch of pieces, and then it wasn't usable. And I found that when I broke it slow, oh, okay, the wood wouldn't shatter, and then it was usable. So I was like, oh, I just have to be gentle with it. And then still, every like 10 crates or something, I would be gentle with that one crate, and it would still shatter into a bunch of pieces and not be usable. And I was just like, wow, okay, I can be gentle with every single crate or every person or relationship, but still someone's going to come and they're going to still come with all their trauma or their hairline fracture in the wood, and they're going to be triggered. And there's nothing I can really do about that except be as careful and gentle as I can. Yeah, last thing I'll just say is I had a day with some medicine there, some people in nature, beautiful, and I had this big insight in that usually I played a playlist on my phone, music for the day, and it's like this 20-hour playlist, and I put it on shuffle and it puts all the songs into this random order, and I can just like maybe songs for the first like 2 hours, and like, oh, this song's too much energy, that one's out, and delete those ones. And I can adjust the songs for that 2 hours, and then kind of just like let go and let myself let go into the experience and just enjoy those 2 hours of music. And then eventually, once those 2 hours pass, it's like, okay, I need to like sort of check on the playlist again to make sure a song's coming that's not going to be like way too much or something. And I just saw that was like a metaphor for my life, and that I have this need to plan out a certain amount of future of my life, whether it's like 5 months or something. And then when I have that amount of my life planned, I can like let go into the experience and then just like be here at the community and like be participating in things. And then once it gets closer to that time and it's like, oh, I don't have more than 2 months of my life planned, I need to like go back into it and like manage it until I have like more like 6 months planned again, and then I can like relax and let go into my experience. And just that, yeah, planning gives me like structure so that in my life, and groundedness so that I can let go into the experience. Hope that made sense. Thank you for watching. I miss you and I love you, and I'll see you for the next check-in.